So today we're going to talk about accountability. Like this comes up so often in HR, especially from leaders who want more of this from their employees. But what is it really when we really get down and dig in? Well, we're going to talk about that today. And here we are on the HR Hub podcast with me, Andrea Adams. Keep listening to learn about this topic and all kinds of things related to HR. You can also find me on YouTube. So today my guest is again Mitch Warner. Mitch is the managing partner of the Arbinger Institute and an author. He's helped out on more than one book, but he's recently partnered on a book called Leadership and Self-Deception, where he gets into this topic. He's had clients like NASA and Citrix and Universal Studios. I'm happy to have him. Hi, Mitch. How are you?
Hey, Andrea. Thanks so much for having me back. I'm excited about this conversation.
Me too. After the last one, I'm really excited. Okay, so can you start by defining what accountability means to you?
Yeah, well, accountability is really giving an accounting for what I'm doing as well as the impact of what I'm doing. But I think when we think about accountability, we think about more than just the accounting of what I'm doing. We think about this felt obligation to take responsibility, to see my impact and take responsibility for that. But I think that that's fundamentally the key to all of it is impact. So much of accountability, the way we typically think about it is, well, this is what I'm doing. But everything that I'm doing is having an impact, like we talked about the last time we were together. S- So it's giving an accounting for all of that and feeling an obligation to take responsibility for the ways that I have influence on other people, which is much broader than, you know, what I'm doing. My influence is significant in an organization. Everyone's is. So how do I take that into account? How, how do I take responsibility for that?
hmm In the last episode, we talked about seeing other people as people, like
Mhm.
really seeing them and seeing what they're trying to accomplish and being curious about that. How does that tie in with this idea of accountability? I feel like there's some sort of thread there.
Absolutely. You know, as we talked about before, because everything that I do impacts other people, I can't just give an accounting of what I'm doing. I have to give an accounting of my impact on those people and usually to those people. And if I don't see them as people, if I don't see them as having objectives and needs and challenges that are as real as mine, I won't be able to see the impact that I'm having on them. And then I won't really be doing my job. Um, it's interesting. I sometimes will ask groups of people that I'm talking to about this issue of accountability to fill in this missing word from a statement that I hear in just about every organization that I ever work with. And it's this: so and so is really good at their blank, but they create all sorts of problems for people around here. And then I ask them, just fill in the word, and they know it immediately. So and so is really good at their job. And then we pause and we're like, wait a minute, how is that statement even intelligible? That a person could be good at their job and yet create problems for other people in the way they go about doing their job? Like that simple statement, and you hear it all the time. This is just the way we all inherited this view of work that seems to divorce what I do and the impact of what I do. As if I could be good at my job because I'm doing stuff well, but my impact on other people and the way I go about doing that is horrific.
hmm
Those are one and the same thing. So to be accountable means that, yeah, I'm getting my stuff done, but I'm doing it in a way that's helping other people who are impacted by that accomplish their objectives too. That makes it easier for them to get their work done. That's what I think is the missing piece when we talk about accountability. When people say, as you said, I just need people to be more accountable around here. Yeah, they mean I need people to take more responsibility for doing their stuff, but I also mean I need people to take into account the impact that they're having on everyone else in the way they go about doing their stuff.
I think that's exactly what leaders are mean when they come to HR and they say, I need them to be accountable. They need to be accountable for the whole range of results, not just the technical aspect of what they're doing, but also the impact that they're whatever it is they're doing or not doing is having on other people. I think you've hit the nail on the head, at least in my experience. Something we talked about when we were exploring this conversation was looking inwards at our own accountability or lack thereof. Do you want to like how do we confront our own accountability or lack thereof? I think this part is going to be uncomfortable.
Let me just share with you an experience I had that really brought this idea home to me, this idea of what we're really accountable for and what it means to be accountable. I was 18. I was working in a nursing home in Southern California, and I was hired to work in the business office of this nursing home. There's like 78 patients. And so they said, Mitch, you're going to work in this business office. You're going to like collect from insurance companies and things. And then the administrator said, oh, and by the way, in addition to that, I'd like you to visit, like have a personal interaction with every patient in this facility every day. I was like, okay, well, I'll do that if that's my job. Then I'll do that. So I did that. I literally interacted with every patient in the facility every day. And the reality is I hated that part of my job because I really didn't like elderly people.
Mm,
I'm working in a nursing home. That's another story. But I remember that over time I started to really change and love these people. But there was one person that was a real struggle. Her name was Linda, and she was in this corner bedroom. And I walk into this room, I see her name on the placard, and there's this woman, and she's laying in this hospital bed, and the sheet is pulled up and tucked in really tightly around her so that I can see beneath the sheet the shape of her feet, and they're severely contracted.
oh, yeah.
Then it's pulled up over her chest, and her arms are on top of the sheet, and her hands are severely contracted like this. And so I introduced myself. I said, hey, Linda, my name's Mitch. I'm brand new here. How are you? And she doesn't say anything. She just looks at me. So after a couple of minutes, I said, well, nice to meet you, Linda. I'll see you tomorrow. And I left, and I came back the next day. And here's the point. I did my job, what I thought was my job, every day. I went into her room. I tried to engage her in conversation. I interacted with this patient, right? And this went on for weeks, and not once did she ever say a word to me. She would just look at me. And I remember I'm like 3 or 4 weeks into this, doing my quote unquote job, right? And I have the same one-sided interaction. I turn to leave, and I see that the patient closet door that's behind the door to the hallway is open. It's ajar. And this poster kind of thing has fallen out. And it's all ripped up, and it's gross, and it's dusty. And so I pick it up. It's this rolled up piece of paper, and I start walking down the hall to take this to the dumpster in the back. And this nurse stops me, and she said, hey, Mitch, where are you going with that? I said, oh, it's just a piece of trash. I found it in Linda's room. I'm just taking it to the dumpster. And she said, well, do you know what that is? Well, I hadn't looked at it. So I opened this up, and it's about 11 by 17 poster board that's all crinkled up. And there's all of these black and white pictures on it, like a tray of food and a pitcher of water and a pencil and the toilet and the telephone, things like that. And the nurse says, that's a communication board. Linda, she can't speak. And I didn't know that. So, you think about accountability, what it means to actually do my job. The hard part was I thought I was doing my job. I thought I was the most diligent employee in that facility because I was doing what I had been asked to do. And yet I had never actually done my job. So I can give an accounting of what I'm doing. I said, yeah, I'm doing everything. And that's part of the problem with accountability, or a lack of accountability. It so often parades as accountability. Here's what I'm doing. And you see that when people are questioned relative to their accountability, that's what they give as an excuse. All the stuff they're doing. But that doesn't account for the impact of what they're doing. We so often in organizations, we think we got it all buttoned up because we got all the job descriptions done and everybody has their tasks and we've got objectives for those tasks and we're measuring them. And we might even be having conversations about what everybody's doing, and no one is doing their job because no one has understood that their job is to see the people around them that they're doing any of this for and figuring out what's my impact and how can I adjust what I'm doing in order to have the right kind of impact.
There's limits on what you could do. Like in a nursing home, you're not gonna start giving them medication. You're not going to start changing the dressings and things like that when you're the guy in the office who's supposed to be dealing with insurance, right? There's limitations.
Yeah, there's some things that
It real
need qualifications in order to do, but what is my job? My job is to see all the people around me as people, and my job is to come up with any way that I can, given the scope of my responsibilities, to help them be more successful. That's where innovation happens. You start to picture, what would innovation look like if it wasn't owned by anybody? As like a thing. It was how everybody thought about their job. See people, adjust my efforts in order to help them be more successful because I care about them as people, and then measure my impact. Is that helpful? Is there something else we could do?
So, I don't know if you've addressed this already, but maybe you can just clearly and succinctly, what does a lack of accountability look like?
Well, I'll just speak from my experience. A lack of accountability, sometimes it looks like incredible conscientiousness, but it's just self-focused, like with Linda.
Yes.
And sometimes it looks more like apathy. Um, and you'll see that in an organization. You go, well, these people aren't accountable. What does that mean? It's they don't care. These people, they're not accountable. What does it mean? It means that they work really hard, but they're just not thinking about their impact. So there's a wake of, problems that they leave behind anywhere they go. There's a cost to them accomplishing their objectives. And these ones, they don't even want to accomplish their objectives. I think of the two, these ones are easier. The ones that just don't care, just help them find somewhere else to work. Because if they don't care about this, it should show in their objectives. Those ones are easy. If I'm apathetic, then I'm not taking care of those, but I should just be able to solve those. It's these ones over here. It's where people are working really hard and they're just deceived. They're telling themselves lies about their impact. Those ones are hard because if you go to those people and you say, "Hey, why are you creating so many problems?" They're thinking, "Are you kidding me? Problems? I'm the highest performing person in this organization." And so to help those people, we have to break down what it means to have a job in terms of my capabilities. Am I achieving my objectives? Am I capable of achieving those? If I'm not capable of achieving those, I need to either find another role in the organization or some other organization. But
Right.
if I'm capable of achieving those and I'm putting in the right kind of effort to achieve those, I still have to measure my own performance in one other area, and that's impact. That's what we typically don't measure. And that's why you have all sorts of people that are high performers, highly conscientious, hard workers, putting in tons of effort, and yet no one can afford to have them in the organization because the cost is too high. It's because they've never learned, and they've never learned because it's never been measured, that impact is as much a part of their job as what they quote unquote achieve.
Mhm. That one's making me think for sure. All right. So, I'm just gonna be a little bit raw here. I have the I have somewhat of the opposite problem where I blame myself for everything. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's out there. Is that accountability? Like I'll take responsibility for a lot of things. Maybe I shouldn't.
Well, I think there's a difference in taking responsibility and wallowing in self-blame. Those those seem like the same thing on the surface, but Andrea, those are not the same experience. And someone who takes robust responsibility for ways that they've been complicit in problems that have been created, awesome. The difference between that person and someone who wallows in self-blame is their helpfulness and effectiveness, right? This person says, "Oh my word, I'm so sorry. I created a problem here. How are we going to fix that?" They don't stay in that place, right?
Mhm.
And and taking responsibility is super helpful for everyone around them because now we see, oh, there was the problem, but they're not defining themselves by the problem they're creating. They're just finding a way to find a solution. And they invite everybody else to go, "Oh, it's safe to go Yeah, I made that. I created that problem. All right, how are we going to fix it? But when I'm over here, because I've been like you,
Mhm.
and that experience is so different. To go, oh my word, I can't believe I did that, and now that defines me, and it's a totally different thing. Sometimes we help people find kind of the moment that these lies that we tell ourselves come into existence. It often goes back to a moment of what we call self-betrayal, where I have a sense, it's just a straightforward sense of what another person might need. I see, like, let's say you and I work together, and I come across a piece of information, and I think, oh my word, if I'm outward, if I'm thinking about others, I think, oh, Andrew could really use this information. If I just go share it with you, easy. But let's say I don't. Let's say I betray my own sense to share that with you. Rather than take accountability for my refusal, my self-betrayal, the betrayal of my own sense to be helpful, rather than take accountability for it and go, I didn't share that, I should have, I'm going to share it. I can go one of two ways to find justification. I can either say, oh man, I'm so much better than Andrea. I mean, look, I wasn't like doing anything extra special. I was just doing my job when I came across this information. So if I found this and Andrea hasn't found this, that means that I'm doing my job, and that means that Andrea's probably not, which means she's lazy, and she's probably not as valuable to the organization as I am. And you know what is the worst thing to do with someone like Andrea, who who ends up being reliant on people like me, is to spoon feed them. The best thing I could do is to not share the information, right? And I see myself as better than you, and you as inferior to me, and now I've got all the justification in the world as to why I don't have to take accountability for what I originally sensed to do that would be helpful for you and the whole organization. But think about the other way it can go. I didn't share this information with you. Oh man, I I, I can never do anything right. Andrea, she's so much better connected in the organization. She's so much smarter. Um, I don't even know why I'm here. And the reality is, she's probably found this information already, and so if I share this with her, I'm just going to be found out that I'm late to the party. She's probably wondering, why am I coming across this now? So, but notice, in either version of me, whether I see myself as better than others or I see myself as worse than others, I got what I needed. I got justification for not taking accountability for doing what I originally sensed to do for you as a person that would be best for the organization. And I find that oftentimes when I wallow in blame, I am in that worse than place. And it's not the truth. It's a lie. It's self-deception, just the way seeing myself as superior to others is self-deception. Either one of those ways of being gets in the way of the work of the organization.
There was one other nuance to that that I was noticing while you were talking there. Uh, oh, the poor guy that's going, "Oh, well, Andrea, she's so great. She knows so much, and I am going to try and sabotage her efforts because I'm envious of her success." That was just another nuance I was thinking of, which is also exceptionally unhelpful, right? But, yeah,
Totally.
yeah, maybe not vape, but many.
Both of those become self-fulfilling prophecies, right? If I see myself as better than, right? And then let's say that you and I are in a meeting and you have some great idea. I don't hear that because now that's a threat to my view of myself as being better than. I'll carry that view of myself all over the place, right? So you say, Mitch, are you interested in having good ideas no matter where they come from? I say, oh, yes, absolutely, but not really. Now, the most important thing for me is that image that I have that I'm smarter or better than other people. But the same with the worse than, right? I I now I'm looking for evidence, right? That that's the case, and now I need to be seen in certain ways. I need everyone to perceive me as not this problem.
Yeah, yeah. So the book you wrote, it's really relevant. It's called Leadership and Self-Deception. We've just been talking about self-deception. So can you describe that a little bit more though? What do you mean by self-deception and how does it relate to accountability?
Well, first of all, a group of us at Arbinger wrote that book, just like every other
Right,
book. It's
right, right,
it's
right.
always a big group effort. But in self deception, What's really going on is I'm lying to myself and I'm believing that lie, which seems crazy. It seems like a
Mhm.
paradox. How could I be the same person who's lying and believing the lie, right? If someone else lies to me, I might believe that because I don't have all the full context. But when I lie to me,
Yeah.
how
But
do
it's
I believe that?
Yeah, it's like that example you would just gave that the person who thinks they're better in it than every others and they're believing that lie because it's a lie, they're not better. Or the person who blames themselves for everything, sometimes me, uh, also a lie and they're believing it. So that's self-deception.
That's self-deception. That's it. And that, more than anything else, is at the heart of human dysfunction. It doesn't matter if it's in a personal one-on-one relationship, like a marriage or with children. It doesn't matter if it's in your community. It doesn't matter if it's in an organization. That issue, people in self-deception, is the number one issue at the heart of human dysfunction.
So the title of your book is Leaders and Self-Deceptions. What is the leader's role in remedying self-deception?
It's a great question. The first role of a leader, if you want to help people overcome the self-deceptions that you can see happening in an organization, first thing you have to do is be free of it yourself. You can't be a self-deceived leader and help other people. You got to put the air mask on first, right? But then what we explore in the book is specifically how discovering how I'm self-deceived frees me and gives me the ability and authority to help other people see how they might be self-deceived. And you don't go about it directly. Believe me, the way to solve this in other people is not say, hey, by the way, I see you're self-deceived, or you're telling yourself a lie. Let me just tell you what the truth is. It's not that. And the reality is, you don't overcome self-deception yourself by just saying, oh, well, that's completely untrue. You overcome self-deception by becoming alive again to the people around you. I told myself a lie in that little, hypothetical about who you are and why I'm justified in not sharing the information, right? If I just get really curious about you and I say, well, who is Andrea really? You know, all of a sudden that that artifice of lies, it crumbles in the face of your humanity. But we wall ourselves off from the humanity of others because we can't afford to see it. If I see your humanity, this caricature of you is either worse than or better than, it it crumbles. So part of the work in overcoming self-deception as a leader inside your team is helping people become really alive to each other, seeing each other and as people, and reorienting my work in terms of, well, what are you trying to accomplish? I can't do my work in an organization that's free of self-deception when I recognize that my work is to enable you to succeed.
There's just so many facets of life on which we could be self-deceiving, like
Yeah.
anything you can imagine. Uh, we can't tackle it all at once. How how do you approach it anyways?
Yeah. The first thing I do, and we talked about this a little in the last episode too, but I help people understand that in order to have a job here, you have to understand your role in terms of who you impact. And the first thing that you do as a member of my team is you get to know all of those people that you impact. When you meet with me as your manager, what I want is an accounting of not only what you've accomplished, but how you're impacting each of those people in the directions of your work, your manager, your customers, your coworkers, your direct reports, if you're a manager. And where is that coming from? It's coming from the conversation that you have had with that person, right? So when we meet together, I might know that someone's really struggling with you, Andrea. And as a leader, if I don't have an image that I have to protect, like I'm the sort of leader that everybody loves, or I'm the sort of person who's nice, or anything like that, I'm just free to be with you, person to person. I don't have an image of myself. Then when you say, yeah, I think I'm doing a pretty good job, well, tell me about how you're interacting with sales over there. Oh, I think it's great. Well, actually, I've had a conversation with them and it feels like everything isn't great. Can we pause this conversation? Would you go meet with them? And I'm going to give you just 3 questions to ask. First one is, how does someone in my role affect or potentially affect your ability to do your work, positively or negatively? And how could someone in my role be most helpful to you? And how do you want me to check in and stay accountable to you on my impact, on your ability to do your work? Just go ask them those questions. And if I know that there's been a lot of friction, I might say, hey, you know what? I need you to think in advance of asking those questions, how you've been getting in their way. And I'll work with you on that. And I might have to prompt a few of those things. And I say, okay, well, you know what? I'd like you to just go take responsibility for that. Just go share with them what you see their objectives are, how you're getting in their way. And I want you to brainstorm and share with me in advance some things that you could offer them that might help. When people start meeting to give in that way, it unlocks the kind of human connection. And now, as a leader, my job isn't to hold anyone accountable. The work of a leader is to develop accountable people, to say, you know what, you're accountable. As a person who's in this role, impacting all those people, you're accountable for your impact. I'll give you some help to know what kinds of conversations you could have that could unlock that. But ultimately, when you come back and we unpause this conversation, I want to know what you're seeing, how you're taking responsibility, and what you're going to do differently. And if you can't do that, you can't work here.
Okay. That's we just ran out of time. There's just so much to talk about here. How can people learn more about this? Reach out to you, provide me with that info, and I'll put it in the show notes and stuff.
Perfect. Well, just come visit us at arbinger.com. We'd actually love to have a conversation with anybody about how this is showing up in their organization. But really, the best place to start, if you're on this journey to figure out how I drive this deeper level of accountability, go and read Leadership and Self-Deception. It's been specifically written to tackle that issue. How do you help people see the lies that they're telling themselves about the impact they're having and fundamentally transform?
Mhm.
It's a book that is transformative at a personal level. It's a book that's transformative at an organizational level. And if you're listening to this, honestly, I would love to hear what that sparks for you, what you implement from reading that book. I'd love to have that conversation. So reach out.
Oh, okay. All right. Put all that in the show notes. Well, thanks, Mitch. The part I'm reflecting on is the part about self-deception. And it's all negative, I guess, the ways we can self-deceive ourselves. And that ultimately it really isn't helpful. I'm going to be thinking about that more, but not right now because we've reached the end of this episode. Thanks for listening out there. We'll catch you next time when I talk with another amazing guest.